Welcome, everybody. So happy to be here with you. So my name is Kristin Carpenter Ogden, and oh my gosh, my name is Kristin Carpenter. I don't know where that came from. I'm going to start over here. Okay. Hello, everybody. This is Kristin Carpenter, and I am the CEO and founder of Verde Brand Communications, the host of the Channel Mastery Podcast, and the creator of the Multi-Channel Marketing Academy. And it has turned a little chilly here in my little town in Durango, Colorado, which is why I'm all bundled up. But I am here today to give a quick little webinar on a primer on budgeting and planning for marketing in 2021. I do not pontificate to have all of the answers here. I couldn't find any answers that my clients needed, so I went out and created this deck with my team. And I also thought, what a great thing to share with everybody, but I would like to also let you know that this is a great sneak peek in terms of what you could receive as a student in the Multi-Channel Marketing Academy, which we just opened registration for. So keep in mind, you can check that out. The link should be, I guess we're going to follow up with that link. I don't know how to share that in Zoom with a full screen here, but either way, just know we'll get you that. All right, so here we are. And I am really, really excited to be here. I'm excited to launch the second cohort of the Academy today. And let's get into it. All right, so our goal here today, we have two. One is to let go of what has kept you comfortable in your business. And if 2020 hasn't kind of done this for you already, I see two camps of people. I see some people who are really just clinging to kind of the norm on any level they can. So they may have gone through an incredible amount of duress and change this year, for sure. But at the same time, they are also, now that we're into budgeting and planning, they're holding on to old tools for that. And the old tools for that are not going to work for what we are planning and budgeting for in 2021. So I invite you to let go of the resistance, to let go of what's keeping you safe. So just for our time together today, just be open-minded and let that go. And then the second goal is to deliver the Ocho. I'm a big fan of Ben Stiller, and I love that movie. I think it's, I can't remember the name of it, but it's the one where he's on a team and they're, they are, oh, whatever, it'll come to me. But anyways, the Ocho. 8 things to do and 8 things not to do as you get down to business to build out your strategic planning, your budget, and marketing for 2021. And as everything Channel Mastery and Verde oriented, this is dedicated to specialty brands. That's what we build resources for here at Verde. That's what the Academy is for. I wanted to spend just a little bit of time talking about our agency and give you a little bit of background on what we do at Verde. So because Verde is the producer of Channel Mastery, and Verde is the company that launched the Multi-Channel Marketing Academy. So we are turning 20 years old in 2021. I can't believe that. I literally just dropped my son off at Montana State University up in Bozeman. I love that town. And I was pregnant with him when I founded Verde. It's just bizarre how it all kind of came back together. But anyways, that's our history. Like, we're basically going into our 20th year of innovation. I founded the company literally in a basement in Durango, Colorado, and it has grown into a great agency with 3 offices in the Intermountain West and a team of 18 fantastic brand practitioners. We are dedicated to specialty. Our background is in the outdoor recreation markets, but we also work in wine, spirits, beer, travel, fitness, and we had a nice run in pet with Zooks for many, many years. 5 years. So basically, these are the awesome clients that we work with today. And you can check us out at verdepr.com to learn more. But I wanted to quickly, before I go to the next slide, keep in mind that Verde does do what we call integrated specialty multi-channel brand communications. That is a mouthful. And what that basically means is, if you look at a purchase circle or a purchase funnel that a consumer has an experience with online today, it is discovery, and then it's basically engagement, nurturing, enrollment, purchase, and conversion. Purchase validation, and then conversion with the actual buy. And I'm super proud to say that the work we do at Verde, the content we produce, powers visibility and also can be optimized all the way through the purchase funnel or journey to help move the consumer through that funnel and down to either opting into your brand and enrolling in your brand and connecting with your brand or buying from your brand. And we keep evolving every single week. This year has been incredible for us from an evolution standpoint. Our amazing clients have looked to us for help in terms of like recasting their tactical plans literally every 2 weeks, every month through this pandemic and recession, through the incredible social justice issues we've seen in this country and globally. And also going into the election year, we are guiding and partnering with our clients on a level we never have before. It's been so fulfilling for us. We value that partnership. We even still have our founding client in Matolia's client climbing and another one in the Conservation Alliance. So very, very proud of that. 3.5 years ago, when all of those retail apocalypse headlines were taking shape online, we also started a podcast because we realized that there weren't any resources available for specialty brands that we serve at Verde. So we saw all kinds of resources out there on Inc. and Forbes and some in Fast Company. There were some conferences at big retail trade shows, but really there wasn't anything for our special snowflakes, is what we call them, in specialty. So we created the Channel Mastery Podcast. I can't believe we're up to 150 episodes. It's a free resource. We drop a new show every week, and I encourage you to subscribe, and then please also send us ideas for shows. But what we help specialty brands do is reach, engage, enroll, serve, and convert their target consumer. We help our brands build audiences and activate those audiences within specialty, which is very different than broad market, than Amazon Marketplace, vending machine, than commodity approaches. We really focus on the artisan brands, and we have a very special way of serving them with our brand communications. Channel Mastery is our weekly free content. Please check it out. Okay, so earlier this year, in May, we decided to launch our academy. So this is something that we had been working on for some time, and we decided to move the launch date up sooner to May because we definitely saw, I was doing 1 to 2 panels a week across the specialty outdoor industries of bike, snow sports, and outdoor through the crux of the pandemic earlier this year when everybody was in lockdown, to teach specialty brand and retailers best practices around communications, and also to facilitate panels, but really just to put ourselves out there as a resource for help. And we realized that the actual like course that we were building in the academy that we're planning on launching either late in 2020 or very beginning of 21 was really something we had to get out to people right away because it was perfectly tailored to what they needed. It literally is an 8-week course that teaches specialty brand leaders to focus 100% on serving their target consumer instead of focusing on how they're distributing product, okay? Direct first brands might have been beholden to building audiences online through Facebook ads, etc. Legacy wholesale brands were more focused on serving their points of distribution, such as REI or brick and mortar retail, which are very, very important parts of the consumer decision journey, as is Facebook, obviously. But point being is, we started to get more focused on those points of distribution than we were on the consumer. Meanwhile, through COVID, the consumer has changed absolutely dramatically, as we all know. And so we realized with all of these things lining up that we had the perfect resource, and we launched a beta group, and we had about 40 students in that group. It was a 2-month, as you know, 8-week course, and it was super successful. That launch was really scary in May for so many reasons. But having seen the transformation this course has brought to specialty brand leaders and to the group of peers that we created and how they relied upon each other to workshop through this course, as well as have our live trainings and the curriculum and the resources we built to support that, it was a transformative experience. So now we completely wholeheartedly believe that this is something specialty needs. And let's also consider September's backdrop. So September, as where we are right now, everybody is online, okay? All of our competitors, our brands, are vying for the attention of the consumer who has been tethered to their browser all year. It is so crowded. It is difficult to gain the attention to be discovered by your target consumer. Okay. We're going into a heavy promotional window from Labor Day to the end of the year. It's going to get even more noisy. And the cohort that we are launching right now for the Academy is going to help brand leaders through that and really develop an incredible skill set to go into 2021 with. They will have that skill set, but they will also have a plan and a budget framework to house that plan. And the plan is built on the framework that we offer in the Academy, which is something you can use again and again, no matter how much is changing with a consumer or with, any other levers that might be going on with your brand in terms of how it's trying to grow, frankly, in 2021. So today is about setting up the strategy and the budget, but I wanted to give you a little bit of background on that. Okay. What is our common ground? This is such a great question. And I kind of just touched on it a little bit. But we have two kind of, I think, conjoined common grounds. Okay, one is what I just said in terms of everybody's competing for the attention of the consumer online, and that's very, very challenging. It's super noisy out there. But the other common ground is that we're all sitting here heading into the end of the year during a time when most of us have a pretty big jump on our budget planning and strategic growth plans for next year. Usually that happens in August and September for a lot of our clients. Some of them come in a little bit later than that, but that's usually the time frame. And I've talked with a ton of people in my network, a lot of our clients, and I've done a ton of research online. There are very few resources available to support that process. And so, like we do at Verde, we built what you're about to see. And keep in mind, this is, the first of its kind in terms of a webinar resource for you. There is nothing online right now that will walk you through as a specialty brand leader how to build the framework for a budget, how to approach the budgeting process, which is what you're going to get today. But know that in the Multi-Channel Marketing Academy, we will have this in more in depth. And we're actually offering a bonus to people who are willing to sign up for our course by this Friday. They will get access to a special workshop that we're limiting numbers on, that will be a 2-hour workshop where we'll actually separately sit with these students and walk them through and workshop with them so that they can have all their questions answered. And that's something that you could get if you sign up by Friday. And we'll have all the information on that in the follow-up to this webinar. Okay, so obviously the common ground we have is we're all kind of sitting here perplexed, scratching our heads, like, how do we build this budget? How do we even start this process? And there's, as I said, two camps of people. There's a camp of people that are like, oh, budgeting season, I know what to do. And they pull out what they've always done. And then there are people who are like, I already know I can't use that. So what do I do? And I'm here today to tell you, you actually have, this is not your first rodeo, even though it may feel like it. You just lived through the most difficult, challenging, crazy year of business that I think any of us have ever seen. And we've had to be super flexible. We've had to pivot. We've had to be nimble, all of our favorite words. But literally, we have had to do that. We have a little bit of track history to look back on, and that's what we're going to talk about today. And we're also going to talk about some smart approaches to building budgets and actually having a more collaborative effort around that, where you're working together with your leadership team to discover what works best to grow your brand with the right target consumer, which is what we're all about in the Academy. We don't want to be remarkable to everyone. We want to be remarkable to just our target consumer. As we consider that consumer is online today, and they are being barraged with a ton of noise and information from our competition, which includes our normal competition, but also Amazon, Target, Nordstrom's, big retail, etc. You'll start to see that we can become a respite to our target consumer. We can be the people they want to hear from, right? The brands they want to identify with and actually wear as identity pieces, if you will. So that's basically where we're going today. So while we don't have any comparables, we do have what I think is a horizon line on this pandemic. We have the election coming up. That's another big milestone we have to get through. Everybody does know that's going to cause more change. But ultimately, a lot of our clients, a lot of the people in my network, and a lot of the people that I've just been researching this webinar for, interacting with them on, they see that the horizon line, like, it may not be first quarter, It may not be second quarter, but at some point after second quarter, I think people are really banking on business transaction happening again. There are some brands who are thinking it's going to be more March timeframe. There are some who are thinking more July. There are some thinking later summer. But everybody has something in 2021 where they feel like transaction will start again on a level that they can plan for and build growth into, I guess is the best way to go. So I wanted, before I get into the Ocho, I have two things I wanted to share with you. One is a mindset that we need to get into together. And then one is sort of a 30,000 foot operational view that is important to put in place before we talk about the niche budget of marketing, okay? And I now am getting too warm, so I'm gonna take this vest off. Okay, so first and foremost, we're gonna talk about letting go, okay? So resistance has been what has made this year so difficult. If you think about it, all of the change has been around the thoughts that are really plaguing us in terms of, do I have what it takes to get through this? What else could possibly happen? These are thoughts that caused suffering, right? And we have thoughts that we like to hold on to where we were successful and we're comfortable, and there's tools that we use to create an outcome. I'm asking you to come into a mindset with me around what we're about to go into today that is much more open and less safe, I think is the best way to put it. Okay, so this is a visual I wanted to bring in. It's a real life experience of mine, and I bet it will remind you of a couple of real life experiences that you've had as well. So it was a while ago now, but I went on a climbing trip to Moab with a good girlfriend of mine named Nora. And we climbed Castleton Tower together, which is the tower that's off to the left in this photo, okay? It was a beautiful day. We did a trade route called the North Chimney, and we got to the top. The North Chimney is pretty protected, but we got to the top and realized it was howling wind, okay? And it was close to like late afternoon time by the time we got up there. And we kind of had to make a plan. Like wrapping off of that was a little bit of a different beast with the winds that we were experiencing up there. And it was just she and I, because it was the end of the day, which by the way, today would never happen because there's just so many people out there climbing. But basically, we decided Nora would go first and she would wrap off with the ropes underneath her arms to prevent them from getting stuck in a crack or wrapped around a feature, etc., which would really put us into the hurt locker if that happened. I would probably be spending the night on the top of that thing if that happened. But as you can see, it has a pretty flat top, okay? So I was sitting up there by myself with the wind blowing furiously around me. I couldn't hear when Nora got to the belay that I was supposed to get started. So I just waited. I kept feeling the ropes. And when they felt like they were actually slack, I was like, okay, I guess it's my turn. And I had to pull up the rope and wrap the same way with the ropes under my arms. And ultimately, there's a feeling, right? Here's like, I took some screenshots from a guy named Dan Durston on his Vimeo page, because this shows you how it's like a 90-degree edge and there are very great anchors there. I know the person who put in the anchors, and they were put in relatively recently. His name is Jay Smith. He's a friend of mine. And basically I knew they were something I could trust, undoubtedly, but I was up there by myself and I had to like throw my ass over this cliff and like trust that it was going to work. And so I just did it, and thankfully it worked. But my point being is, I bet this reminds you of something that you have gone through in your life where you just had to sort of trust it. And even though you didn't know you were trusting, you had to take action and hope that those anchors held and got you to the next place where you could kind of regroup and then go again, right? You just sort of have to leave your safety zone. And in my case, that was the top of the tower, and go into the freaking airy abyss. So I have a feeling that that's what setting a marketing budget for 2021 is going to be like. That's kind of what it's going to be like. And just know you're going to get through it. It's going to be very airy. The rope is going to get caught. You're going to think and need to act on your feet a bunch. And you're going to have to consider like a very active landscape as you're going through this. So that's what we're going to talk about today, is an approach that is not static. Okay, we've all grown up with, we need to have one budget that's an operational budget that we basically benchmark year over year growth with. And I do still think that's a useful tool, but it's most certainly not going to be guiding active growth discussions with your leadership team at all. So you need to have that, but then you have to have contingency budgets. Very fun. So let's get into it. So I said the second piece I wanted to get into before I get into the Ocho is really about the 30,000 foot operational view, okay? Because you're not creating your company's budget, you're creating the marketing facet of your company's budget, okay? But you need to be aware that it's going to be very stressful because you are going to be committing dollars of somebody else's money if it's not your company or maybe your own or whatever it is, burning, your founding money that you have. But point being is you're not sure if it's going to work. So you have to create some instruments and tools and a process that are going to enable you to kind of pressure test it as you get through the year. Okay. We already know how to be flexible, for crying out loud. That's what we've done all year. We all know about circumstances being out of our control. But now we have to take everything we've learned for this year and be smart in a new plan. That's what we're here to do. And keep in mind, there's never been anything like a perfect budget ever, okay? And I just wanted to say a few points that I think are really important. And I did, a lot of research on this webinar, and I'm happy to share the links to that. So just know that we'll be following up to the links so you can see some of these resources more in depth if you like. So the financial planning process company-wide is kind of where I'm going right now for just a few minutes. So bear with me, please. This is super important because, again, you're going to be working as part of a team, and everybody on that team is going to be feeling not as confident as usual, okay? I think that it's an inviting, welcome process to change up the budgeting discussion plan and process you used to have. Sometimes it was contentious. But now what I think the best approach that I've researched is you get to actually look at your business through a brand new set of eyes, as if you're like tearing the whole thing down, looking at this year, and then looking at what's viable to build back up in 2021. I mean, when do we ever get a chance to do that? I don't think we do. So it's a chance to be contemplative and to really build out different scenarios and forecasts that are going to support growth month by month or quarter by quarter instead of year over year. Okay, so it's really actually an incredible opportunity to reimagine your business from a zero base and determine the key business drivers that you've learned over the course of 2020 that you might be able to count on, that you can count on for Q1 and Q2. And again, remember, you have chops. You've gone through this whole year. One of the articles that I pulled from for this was written by McKinsey and published 5 days ago, and the link will be in the follow-up for here. And I wanted to read a quick excerpt from this because I thought it was so relevant to us in specialty. So basically, the author wrote, let's consider a brick and mortar retailer as we consider this mindset to go into budgeting. Stores closed in April 2020 as a result of COVID. The retailer pivoted and invested in e-commerce platforms and logistics. In our world, of course, that also is, buy online, pick up in store, curbside pickup, etc. Anything we could do to make it convenient and safe for our people to pick up their product. And then, now that stores have reopened in some regions over summer, the retail invests her initial assumptions and considers them against real-time factors, including sales volume, performance of the omni-channel strategy over the past few months, current trends, which is super important, consumer behavior trends, market trends, travel trends, anything that pertains to the health of your business, okay? Super important. So now is the time to consider what has worked for our business through the tumultuous time of late spring into summer, now into early fall. We've seen 2, maybe 3 big spikes in our country with the pandemic that have really affected business. We've also seen an incredible influx of newcomers into bike and outdoor, all kinds of consumer behavior trends that we're posting on our blog at verdepr.com pretty much every week we have a consumer trends report there. And then I also just want to say, we go into more depth on this in the Academy. Every single week, we have a consumer analysis report that drives the curriculum. So we have a module that drops, and we have a consumer report that is pulled real time that we're all studying every week. And the goal is for us all to become completely like aligned with the pulse of our target consumer. Not all consumers, just the target consumer. Pretty soon, you can start to feel what their reaction is going to be to what you're doing, okay? Because you have such a close tie to them because you're watching this so closely. And we teach you how to do that. Okay, so again, 2 points to consider that are just examples of your chops that you've grown this year. Hybridization will be important and is definitely a strategy for you to consider in 2021. And what I mean by that is if you were to look at like a hospital administration, right? They're used to having maybe a conference and travel budget that didn't get used. So instead, they're putting that into telemedicine, marketing, research around that, et cetera. So coming through the pandemic, when people are kind of coming back into transaction, they are definitely going to still want telemedicine, okay? In addition to being able to come in and have an experience with their healthcare provider in person, they're going to want to have a virtual version of that. We believe the same is true around some of the DIRT events that we manage communications around, both foot and bike, right? We definitely know that there will be a virtual experience that can be a before, during, and after a physical event. Hybridization is probably one of the most important growth levers and opportunities for 2021, and it squarely sits in marketing, okay? It is a way to create a brand experience when you can't be in person, as you well know, but there are ways to monetize that. There are ways to work with sales. There are ways to really create exceptional brand experiences that will keep nurturing your end consumer. And that is definitely something we also go into detail on in the Academy. Okay, so really the takeaway is, before we go into the Ocho, you want to have the ability to kind of look at what might be kind of a messy trail of 2020, but you do have data, you do have results you can look at, but it may not be like nice and neat like you're used to. Go ahead and parse through all of that, start at a very brand new foundation with your business, and then really have a conversation with your team, whether that's the leadership team of your company or your marketing team, on what is truly viable to put in as growth levers for Q1 and Q2 primarily, and then into Q3 when we're hoping to be in a more, I'm not going to say normal place, but a more transactional place and a more place where we can be in physical contact with each other and have physical events. Okay, so all of this is, again, framing the mindset, being open, and letting go of what you're comfortable in, okay? And also keep in mind that digital infrastructure on sales is really important. As I said in that one McKinsey example with the retailer, retailers pivoted to build an e-commerce experience, or they created a way to do concierge support online, or they created great content to inform their audiences and their customers on how they will be able to come in and rent gear, etc., in fall and winter. Your website is absolutely a crux part of what you do going forward for the rest of 2020 and 21. Everybody is tethered online. The entire consumer purchase journey is now happening online. It has to. I mean, yes, there is definitely some activity in retail in terms of purchase, but we can count on online right now. We don't really know what's going to happen with the pandemic going forward, especially with what we're seeing with flu season. There's all kinds of trend reports happening, et cetera. But point being is we know we can count on that. So we have to really leverage that and carry it forward. It's not going to be a one and done. It's an investment that should serve us. So we want that to be part of what we do. All right, let's get into the Ocho. Dodgeball, that's the name of the Ben Stiller movie. And I'm pretty sure that's where I got this from. But all right, so there's 8 things to do and 8 things not to do when you're going into planning your marketing strategy and budget for 2021. Number 1, it is a good idea to still create a full year budget and plan. Okay, like I said earlier in this, we need a benchmark. That is a great business practice to have. Even if it's something you all sit around and like laugh at or have a drinking game to at the end of 2021, you're definitely going to still want to have that growth strategy and budget in place for the whole year. Okay. But don't create it from a template that you used in previous years. The way that I think would be smart to approach this is take the contingency budget approach, which we're going to get into in a minute here, on a quarter by quarter basis, and then roll that into your annual plan. Do not use an existing budget template unless it's like something that is brand new for you and you haven't done it before, obviously. But my point is, you don't want to be graduating in legacy systems or processes like that during a time like this for a year that is not set to be like 2009 or 2010 after the 2008 recession. There is no comparable to what we're going through right now, so we really shouldn't be using the same tools or betting anything that we're going to see any kind of recovery similar to post Armageddon 2008. So that's number one. Okay, this one is really, really important. And it was Wes Allen who told me this last year, and I thought it was such a great quote from him. He's been a guest on Channel Mastery multiple times, and he runs a great specialty store up in Cody, Wyoming, as well as a retail-focused marketing business. Check him out on LinkedIn. But Wes told me, it's amazing to me to see brands. He is a specialty retailer, so he's obviously speaking about specialty brands, set the same KPI for their sales team or e-commerce or marketing that they always have, and they're expecting a different result. So, and what he means by that is like the goalposts, not only do you have to change the goalposts in the game, you have to change the whole game. You can't just do window dressing here and there and say, I got a new budget template. You actually have to look at what you're planning to have as a growth lever or just revenue coming in, and put different key performance indicators around that. Something that everybody agrees to, that is a stretch, that's going to push you, but at the same time is realistic. Otherwise, you're going to just take people's soul out of their work, okay? And keep in mind too, your consumer evolved such a huge amount in 2020. They've had months and months to have these new behaviors that they have exhibited become part of who they are now, meaning they're all online. They're comfortable with that. So you can't use old KPI on engagement or sharing or any of that. You really do have to think about new goals that are going to frame the new revenue and the new growth opportunities. So that's what I'm basically propagating here. Do not use old KPI. You have to really consider that the entire game has changed. Okay, we're on to number 3. And this is something we hit in the academy early on. Create a dashboard that captures these new KPI. We like to do that every single week, but at the very least monthly. And what I mean by that is we train our brand leaders in the academy to create a dashboard. We teach them how to do an audit of their channels, how to understand and make decisions on the KPI that are most important for their target consumer, and then how to build a dashboard. We give them a template for that, and we teach them how to have meetings with their leadership team to ingrain the leadership team on the consumer pulse that they are monitoring and have now become the advocate for. And we don't think that that's something that should happen every week, or every month rather. It really should happen every week, especially during a year like this and a year like 2021. Do not wait to analyze that every quarter. Do not put it on autopilot. You have to actually get in lockstep with your target consumer to truly understand and make growth gains in a year like 2021. There is really nothing more important than that. Putting your consumer at the forefront of everything you do, operationally, product, sales, e-commerce, marketing, all of it. Everybody should be in lockstep with what you as the specialty brand leader are bringing to the table in terms of the pulse of the consumer. And that is something you need to watch in real time, frankly, but report on every week. And just know that we have a whole module on that, and we train people to do that so that they can earn that seat at the leadership table. Super important. Okay. Number 4. This is really important. This is kind of where the rubber meets the road, okay? Don't go into like a huge 3 or 4 launches. This is going to be tough to do from a discipline standpoint, especially on the side of hard goods and events, because we are pent up right now in branding. Like, we want to launch, we want to throw like brand experiences and parties. Like, that's what we do. We want to capture content. We want to do remarkable things for our consumers. We have to be mindful about taking smaller steps before we take big gap jumps, okay? We have to test the waters because the waters keep changing. So we want to create bite-sized campaigns that you can jockey super closely, going back to number 3 of the Ocho, so you can ascertain where a consumer is and how they are responding to the content. A great example is earlier this year, we saw Nike do an incredible job serving and not selling. They made all of their workouts that they had like under a streaming service free. And they noticed after about 3 weeks to a month that their consumer was actually asking questions anywhere they could online. How do I get this outfit that this instructor's wearing? So through that service, they actually ended up getting people wanting to transact. This was during a time of the year when it was the perfect thing to do. You should not have been trying to sell. You should have been trying to serve as a specialty brand. And we have to carry that forward and really identify bite-sized campaigns that enable us to serve so that we can test the appetite of our target consumer. Some of them might be just getting to know us because they're just enrolling with our brand. And we want to make sure we're not being too transactional. It's also just important to consider because as we go through, especially first quarter of next year, like we really don't know where people are going to be from a personal budget standpoint or where unemployment's going to be. There's all kinds of things that we watch every week in the academy so we can understand consumer perception and brand behavior. And we have to be very, very calculated and very real time in terms of how we're going out with our brand campaigns and our communications to them. So bite-sized campaigns over Herculean launches. And then just, again, be mindful of not biting off more than you can chew, not only from just what I just went over, but also from a revenue standpoint. We don't want to use the phrase slush fund, but we do want to park some dollars and have them in reserve to use as we need them as things continue to change. So the bite-size approach to campaigns keeps us out there relevant in front of our audiences, growing our audience, but it also enables us to, I think, be mindful of our budgets even more so. So that's number 4. All right, number 5, we do want to have the goals of the larger business as part of our strategic plan and budget. And this kind of dovetails nicely into putting this into kind of bite-sized campaigns, either month by month or quarter by quarter, where you're actually seeing, okay, here's where we are. This is where the revenue came in. These are the levers we feel confident we can pull right now. And then you meet as a leadership team and you all get on the same page and you discover, okay, now let's go ahead and release some of these dollars we've been setting aside and try and grow this lever right over here. So that's what I mean by you want to have like in your annual plan, that first slide or first of the Ocho was build the annual plan, that holds the business growth goal, even if it's aspirational. And you want to make sure that you're always tying your campaign and your communications results back to that business goal. That's what this is. So going forward right now anyway, through the end of 2020 and probably Q1 of 2021, this is on marketing because ultimately our consumers need to be reached online and given an experience online. So that's really on us as marketers. So it's really important to pay attention to this. And another reason why you want to take the bite size and share the results and understand where the consumer is all the time, every week. So do not offer vague goals. You want to have things that your team can win on. Okay, so try and pick realistic goals that move the needle, but they're not too big and they are tied to like a relevant goal that is achievable. And please also remember your reps, your retailers, all of your stakeholders, even though you're doing this internal leadership meeting, you have to encourage them and set them up to communicate with those stakeholders because they all have to be on the same page. So that's really important too. And we go into detail on that as well. Okay, number 6, we talked about the dashboard and how important that is. So what I wanted to say here that's super important is we want to talk about the importance of actually having that meeting where you're bringing your leadership team together to become ingrained into the pulse of the end consumer. This is how a brand goes from being distributor focused or social media community focused to being consumer focused. And that is all, again, on the shoulders of the exceptional specialty marketer. And that's what we build in the Academy. So you want to share that with your leadership team. So you're all learning how to live and die by how your consumer is engaging with your brand. That is the indicator of growth and success in 2021. And please keep in mind, we don't think it's a great idea to overinvest or overcommit in new marketing technology right now. And this is a really important point. I don't know if I get into it a little bit. Okay, no, I'm going to go into it here. So basically, a lot of our clients are being approached by software as service providers, SaaS providers on marketing technology right now. They see it as an opportune time because all of our consumers are online. They're basically selling in, hey, this is a great way for you to keep track of your consumer, to make the basket size bigger, to blah, blah, blah. Basically, all these are new software solutions that build like a Frankenstein marketing stack. We want to keep things super simple right now. We do not want to keep things complicated by having a difficult or fragmented marketing stack. It's like a miner's shack that you just keep adding rooms onto. It just doesn't look pretty. It doesn't function well. And when you're at the hub of this marketing tech stack, needing to fire it out to your leadership team, because again, you're training them to look to you as the absolute advocate of your consumer, you want to have something that works. So you want it to be as simple as possible. So I would say hold off on making investments unless you're completely committed to up-leveling something with your leadership team. Hold off on bright, shiny object syndrome in terms of buying new SaaS solutions. Oftentimes, these salespeople are trying to hit a quota, as you know, and they're not able to really understand your company's goals, let alone how you want to be differentiated as a specialty brand to a specific consumer group. So it's really important that you're not overbuilding or overcommitting to new marketing tools in early 2021, possibly even later 2021. Okay. Number 7, we're almost through. Do build out different budget models. And some of them, sometimes they're called backup budgets, contingency budgets. The goal of it is to have a budget that reflects a reduced spend on a few different levels, okay? Ask your team and ask yourself in marketing, what would you prioritize? And that goes back to looking at this year, even though it may not be pretty, you can see some things that worked and some things that clearly didn't. You can kind of graduate forward some of the things that you think have legs and your instinct is telling you, yes, we should look at that, and then spend some time researching it and figuring out when it will work as a micro campaign in a quarter of next year, okay? So maybe the first quarter has something every week that's a bite-sized campaign or 2 a month, and you're trying to push a story on a specific directional product or initiative, and you have everything around that, and then you enter second quarter, or maybe it's February, like depending if you go month to month or quarter by quarter, you go into the next quarter and you look, okay, this is what we slated to do, looking at what happened in Q1, looking at where our consumer is, looking at what we went through in 2020 at this time. What should we choose to finalize and try our second quarter forecast and budget, right? Or plan and budget. So you're literally kind of doing a lot of data capture. You're definitely touching in with your instinct. You're meeting with your team and you're deciding, okay, we built a, straw man budget, if you will, a contingency budget for Q1 and Q2. Now we are here at just about to start Q2. Let's pressure test it. And that's basically what we're looking at here. You want to build 3 levels of these for the first 2 quarters of the year, where you want to be and where you would, basically want to be if you had half the success of where you really want to be, and then where you would want to be if the bottom fell out. Okay. I hate to be negative, but you want to have 3 different plans and a plan to implement those individually. So don't ever go back to no budget or let's not try till things, figure themselves out, because you have to actually be driving this with the new knowledge you've gained and the new experience you've fought hard for in 2020. And you do know your consumer well enough as your North Star to understand what you can graduate forward in bite-sized chunks to keep them nurtured and to try and build growth with what you have. So that's a really important one. And then last but not least, the Ocho. Do consider growth opportunities. We're marketers, after all. We're specialty. We're passionate about what we do. If you're in pet, snow, outdoor, bike, beer, wine, or spirits, fitness, travel, eventually, let's put travel on the side. Fitness, you have the opportunity to enroll new consumers and bring brand new brand experiences to them. If it has to be virtual, it's virtual. Okay, and in the academy, we are teaching a rolling launch approach, which I'll get into detail with our students, but ultimately we want to position our brand to reach and acquire new audiences every single month. And that's what we teach. We don't teach launching twice a year. We don't teach launching once a year. We teach launching every month. And it doesn't look like a big new product, a big new show, whatever it is, a big event. It is a very intentional around a business goal of audience growth and activation of just the right customer. And ultimately it's every single month. So you will learn that strategy. That is kind of the penultimate of what we do in the academy. Don't go too crazy. And what I mean by that is if you are a specialty brand and you're a beer brand, now is probably not the time to like do some kind of a pivot and, you know, a very expensive survey and find out if you have permission to perhaps launch seltzer water or something like that. It's more about thinking about things that are maybe closer to the boat, not so much far away from the boat, but like, okay, this is an opportunity that does make sense. We know we have permission to do it. It's pretty bite-sized. Let's give it a try. And you focus a couple of quarters around growing that. Okay. But the goal is over the course of the year to have success with it, but you're pressure testing it. So contingency plans are super important. Setting aside some investment, super important, okay? Looking at resources against the strategy that you want to deploy in a very tumultuous backdrop, that's what you want to be looking at, okay? So you want to take baby steps and you want to have maybe, you could have literally 12 contingency budgets, one for every month of the year, or you could have 4, whatever it looks like for you and your team. Point being is there is no annual budget set and forget with a budget to actual review and all of the stuff that we used to do. Think about how just bionic we're going to be in terms of understanding how to launch going forward in this incredibly challenging time. It is really making us our best. I have one more little bonus, and this is super important. Okay, this is one of the most important whys behind the academy for me, having worked with specialty brand leaders for 20 years with Verde. I want you to make sure that you are, as a specialty brand leader, truly taking control of the role of being the absolute advocate for your brands and consumer. Okay. So often in org charts within the companies we serve at Verde, the brand leader is not at the seat of the leadership table to make the big decisions, to do the big planning meetings. They're kind of brought in secondarily. And what part of the goal, if not a major goal of the academy is to resource our specialty brand leaders to step into that role with confidence and to start running the actual, like, here I am the bridge to our consumer. This is a report I've prepared for you, and we're going to meet about it every week. Like, we set up our students to become that advocate. We give them what they need, we rehearse with them, and we make sure they're comfortable doing that, because ultimately a specialty brand needs that person, and the specialty brand leader should be that person. They should not be relegated to getting all things marketing emails. They should not be relegated to creating collateral for retailers. Okay, those are important things, but ultimately we need a leader on the team who is advocating for the consumer, who actually has the pulse of the consumer, who knows that consumer backwards and forwards on behalf of the brand, and is reporting into the leadership team as that important part of that team who owns that relationship. Do not accept having your budget cut in marketing next year. You have to fight, because you are literally, as the brand leader, with consumers being online, you are the front lines. And I want to encourage you, do not back down, okay? You need that seat at the table, but you also need some budget to serve what you're trying to do within your brand. Please know that, like, you have to make sure that you're fighting to have some budget and not have all of your initiatives cut, because ultimately you are literally the one within your company who is going to convey the specialty brand promise to the right consumer, and ideally build an audience that you own for your brand. And nothing is a bigger asset than that today. So You have to fight for that. And that's what we teach you, because I am all about that. All right. So to wrap this up, thank you for staying all the way to the end. We definitely will be socializing our bonus, where you can gain a special access to a training on this very topic within the Academy if you buy by Friday of this week. So I think that is 16th, 17th. I think it's the 18th of September. It's Friday. If you buy by Friday, you will receive access to that, and we'll follow up with all the details. So within the Academy, registration open today. The link will be sent in the follow-up to this webinar. You will learn a reusable framework. You will work with awesome community of like-minded peers. You will be trained by me. You will have hands-on training and support from our incredible team. All the resources, curriculum and resources, worksheets are updated from our beta launch and ready to go. And we have incredibly powerful guest lecturers lined up too. So it's an experience that you can't have anywhere else. And we just really hope you'll join us. It's going to be an incredible experience. Here is the framework. And again, we'll make this available, and it's all available on our course information page as well. As you can see, there's 8 modules. And that is it. I want to make sure I keep everybody on time. Enrollment is open, but just for a limited time. This is a very long URL. You can also just go to VerityPR/course, and it will get you to the multi-channel marketing sales page. But all the information you need is there. And you can reach out to me and my team anytime during the course of this enrollment window. And keep in mind our special bonus for anybody who is really looking to have more support, a container of support for building a strategy and a budget for the first 2 quarters of 2021 and guidance on the whole year. You can sign up by Friday and get a very special workshop that will be that I will be conducting for the Academy for those who sign up for this special bonus by Friday. And with that, I think we are good to go. So thank you everybody for your time. Head on over to veritypr.com/course to learn everything you need to know about the Academy. Thank you so much. And I'm sure I'll be talking with you soon. Bye.